In a world where actors, artists and musicians often echo similar popular opinions, the legendary writer of Father Ted and the IT crowd Graham Linehan has become a controversial figure for his outspoken views on free speech and women's rights. Recently, the Irish comedy writer was cleared of harassing a trans activist. However, he was found guilty of damaging a phone during the incident. His arrest at Heathrow Airport, a different incident, by 5 armed officers over posts on X, had previously sparked widespread debate across the world over free speech and the UK's approach to online conduct. Following the recent verdict this week, the complainant said justice has finally been served and thanked the court for holding Linehan to account. But should this case, especially of harassment, have ever been brought to court in the first place? I'm now joined by comedian and sitcom writer Graham Linehan. Welcome to the show. It's always a pleasure to see you, but of course you don't live here in the UK anymore. You live in America and you have been forced to come back for this court case, which is now finally over.
Yes, but luckily paid for by the Free Speech Union, so I've used it as a chance to meet up with some people and enjoy London again. I forgot how well London does Christmas.
Yes.
It is one of the good things.
Well, we call it festive season.
Oh, okay, sorry. But yeah, no, so, yeah, and I mean, the whole point of it is to inconvenience you and to make your life a little bit unhappier than it could be.
You've literally got to fly over the world multiple times in this case.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, this guy who came after me, he actually did it before. He got a successful charge because he was putting his phone in the person's face and antagonising them, and they finally got annoyed and threw it away, or batted him away. And it's what he does. You know, he's one of the reasons I was kind of delighted when he decided to take it further is because this is a guy who really values his anonymity, because he's able to use it to infiltrate women's groups. Famously, he would wear like suffragette scarves, go in, start speaking to women. He lied to a Let Women Speak group by saying he was a detransitioner. They trusted him, they swapped information and so on, and he used that information then to harass them, you know. He's been phoning up Posey Parker for 6 years. Christmas Day, he phones her to abuse her. I mean, I've said it on it's one of the things that he tried to get me into trouble for, but it is an actual fact. He is a sociopath, and he is a domestic terrorist because he's basically.
I should say he's not here to defend himself.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, but no, absolutely, that's true. Sorry, but anyway,
he's not your best friend.
Well, let me put it this way: It's exactly the kind of thing the trans activists do. They cannot win debates. You know, that's why you never see them on shows like this. They cannot defend their ideas because their ideas are absurd.
And I would just like to say that if he is watching, you are absolutely welcome to come on the show and discuss gender ideology, because as you say, it's the trying to silence people, and it's not just you, it should be said. This is similar tactics have been used with a lot of women, as you mentioned, Kelly J. Keane and other people, using the police to enforce their ideology.
Yes, because the police are basically, I think, you know, I've said this a lot, but I think what happened with the police was that the Macpherson report back in the day that accused them of being institutionally racist, I think that really traumatized the police. And they wanted to make sure that they never get accused of something like that again. But they overcorrected. And now they're just arresting anyone who, you know, seems to be at odds with current left-wing orthodoxy. So they've been a very kind of weak police who seem to have lost their way. They don't really know what policing is for anymore.
Just using common sense. Just using common sense, being able to read a joke, read a tweet, and go, this is a joke. This is not a criminal
And also,
act.
it's easy to police the internet. You don't have to even get off your chair. You know, it's more difficult to investigate burglaries and rapes and so on. That actually takes police work. But I don't know. I mean, I used to think the internet would be a huge boon to the police, but it seems to have just corrupted them the way it's corrupted everyone else, you know.
Yeah. Your personal data could be exposed right now without you even knowing it. And if you want want it removed, use incogni.com/GBNews in the description now and get 60% off an annual plan on us. Incogni reach out to the data brokers on your behalf and request that your information be deleted from their databases. And they'll keep sending removal requests to make sure your data stays gone. Sometimes your information ends up on strange, obscure websites that automated tools just can't reach. And that's why Incogni just launched their unlimited plan with a feature called custom removals. With this, you can submit any link where your personal information appears, literally paste in the URL, and their privacy team will investigate and work to get it removed. And getting started is super easy. Hit the link in the description, create an Incogni account, and tell them whose data you want removed. Grant them permission to work on your behalf, and then all you've got to do is sit back and relax. They'll keep you updated along the way. Incogni is totally risk-free for 30 days. If you try it, it's not for you, you'll get a full refund. So take back control of your personal data today with Incogni. Use our code GBNews at checkout via the link in the description, and you'll get 60% off an annual plan.
Well, what happened in this particular case was, I believe the initial complaint, actually, the police did use a bit of common sense and said, well, look, there's not any evidence here, there's not been a crime committed. What happened then was that it then was sort of put back to the police saying, look, if you don't take this forward, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. We're going to, recommend you. We're going to take this further. And that's where the fear, rather the police at that point should have stood up and said, actually, no, we don't care. Do your worst. They were like, they went along with it. Yeah, and that's what led to the last year.
They were threatened with a judicial review, which apparently puts the fear of God into cops. And he's done that multiple times. This is another character called Lindsay Watson, who was actually fired from the police for sending abusive emails to his enemies.
So he basically knows how the police are going to react and how to play the police then.
Exactly. And luckily, I understand now that he's been called in for an interview, so maybe there'll be some justice there, But the point about all this that I find most frustrating is that, I mean, all the money they spent on trying me, they could easily sort out this problem in one go by arresting about 5 or 6 trans activists who are all friends with each other, who all coordinate online, and yet the police seem to think...
Well, perhaps not even arresting them, but just kind of just to stop doing their bidding.
Stop doing their bidding, but also, I'll give you for me, the most extraordinary thing of the last few years is that, and I believe that some of the people involved in my case were involved in this, was that there was an attack on the LGBT Alliance conference in the centre of London, across the road from the Houses of Parliament, where thousands of insects were released. So this is a meeting of lesbian, gay, and bisexual people, and they released thousands of insects. Most people don't even know it happened. Surely that should be investigated. Surely that's a crime. But no, my tweets are a crime, And I have to say, I thought they could have chosen better ones. I've been more extreme than that in other tweets, but for some reason they were the ones they chose,
But there is a silver lining here because it has gone through court, and the judge essentially said, look, he said some stuff that I don't like or that is offensive, and you just kind of got to deal with it. And that's the whole purpose, really. Words aren't violence. Words are words. Yeah. And it seems like the more that these kind of cases come to court and the more the victories there are that there wasn't any that you were acquitted of harassment, hopefully that will finally lead to the end of courts being used this way.
Sure, but it shouldn't have taken this. Common sense is just, common sense policing, I don't know what has happened to the police force, but they seem to be frozen between wanting to be some sort of nannying service for the country and actually solving crimes, and I think most people are agreed we'd rather they solve crimes.
Absolutely. Now, on a more personal level, frankly, you've been vindicated. This has been a long journey. I know you're still I know the fight continues. There still are issues that need to be dealt with. but it's far away from when you first started speaking out in 2017. Obviously, your personal life is very different in terms of your friends and some of your family. But do you feel like you're coming out the other side of it?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like that as soon as I went to the States. Really, I'm not a face in the States. I'm just Joe Schmo, which is what it was like when I came to London, and I always loved that about London. You know, being able to disappear, and that became less and less possible the longer I was in the UK. So it's nice to be able to go back and have some kind of anonymity, you know. But and you know, my reputation being beaten about by, you know, non-entities like Owen Jones is not as much of an issue over there. Now I get to be insulted by much more famous people like Bill Maher. So yeah, it's a step up in a lot of ways.
But is it? I mean, sorry, I don't want to like turn in some emotional thing here, but looking at the friendships that you had, you know, 20, 30 years of a lifetime of friendships, and you're looking back at these people you worked with as well, careers that you arguably helped to start.
Yes.
And
this sounds like an Ardal O'Hanlon question.
Well, no, just like, but is there going to be some level of closure? Has anybody kind of come forward and said, you know what, we totally messed up, we were cowards, and I'm sorry, mate?
No, quite the opposite. There's always criticisms of it. Like Ardal, when I phoned him, he went after me in the press, as always, and, you know, because none of these people have the guts to pick up a phone and actually talk to me. And I rang him, and I was very angry with him, and he switched from saying, I just don't agree with you, Graham. And I said, wait, you agree with women and men in women's prisons and sports? And he goes, well, I don't know the issue, but it was the way you did it, you know? And my feeling is always the same. It's like, well, tell me how you did it, you know? To my knowledge, Ardal has never said a word about women in men's, or men in women's sports, or men in women's prisons, or children being mutilated and sterilised. He's never said a single word about it. So for these people to criticise me after this thing has completely destroyed my life is, you know, more than I can bear sometimes, you know? But I don't know. I'm just going to keep doing it and hope that these wins keep coming in and people, you know, one of the strangest things and the best things about what happened to me with the arrests is simply that I went from you know, shouting in what felt like a wind tunnel to suddenly everybody was able to hear me. And, you know, that's all I ever wanted. I just wanted to get these facts through, to get these situations through, to show what was happening to, you know, any woman who stood up against this stuff. And, yeah, it's I feel like we're beginning to cut through now.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause, please, for Graham Linehan.
Thank you.
It is worth saying Lindsay Watson is not here to defend some of these comments made. Again, Lindsay Watson is also welcome on the show. And following the verdict, Sophia Brooks, representing, as the complainant said, justice has finally been served. I'm just throwing always is also welcome on the show. Is going on here. Graham, you were described as a plainly bigoted, bad-tempered thug and a criminal. There we go. Yeah. Next.